Hello, welcome to Mr. Paul's Pantry. I'm Mr. Paul and it's nice to see everyone here again, both new visitors, you're very welcome, and all my returning friends. Now today's recipe is for something in England we call drop scones or scones. In Scotland they call them Scotch pancakes. Now pancakes in the in England are very thin things which are really like crepes. Which we call pancakes, but in Scotland it's a little different. They're a little spongy, a little fluffier, not quite as thick and fluffy as American pancakes, but very similar. I'm going to show you how to make them and some very different ways of eating them. Okay, so let's get on with the ingredients. So here are the ingredients for the Scotch pancakes or drop scones, whatever you want to call them. The recipe, by the way, is underneath the video on my website, and I will put them on the screen during the making of the pancakes. I've got some self-raising flour. I've got 1 egg. I've got some sugar. Doesn't matter whether it's granulated or castor. I've got some cooking oil, ordinary vegetable oil. Some full fat milk, and full fat milk is essential here. Don't try using it with skimmed or semi-skimmed. And a pinch of salt. That's all you need. There's nothing else to it. The flour, by the way, I'm using self-raising, but if you haven't got self-raising, if you're using plain flour or all-purpose, then you need to add half a level teaspoon of baking powder. Not bicarbonate of soda or baking soda. It must be baking powder. I'll go through this again. Self-raising flour, 1 egg, some sugar, a little oil, some full fat milk, and a pinch of salt. Right, now we'll put these ingredients together. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the egg, the sugar, and the milk. And we're going to mix those together before we start. Give them a good mix. The sugar will soon dissolve in all that liquid. Shouldn't worry about it too much. Right, now the next thing we're going to do is to put the dry ingredients in here. And the dry ingredients are just the flour. And don't forget, if you're using plain flour, you need to add half a level teaspoon of baking powder. And in there we're going to also add a pinch of salt. Just mix those together a little bit. And then we're going to add the liquid. Need to mix that gently. We don't want to whisk this very hard, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to develop any gluten that's in the flour. We only do that if we're making bread type doughs. We don't want to develop any gluten because that makes the finished product tough. We need to just mix it until it's nice and smooth. Mix it nice and gently. That should take you about a minute, that's all. There we are. Now I have seen a lot of videos on people making these drop scones, and they always seem to have, a lot of them seem to have the batter too thick. We want it about just a bit thicker than double cream, just a bit like that. We don't want it too thick and we don't want it too thin. And the next thing we're going to do is, just before we start using the batter, we're going to add the oil. But just a little quick word about the batter. Now, I see in a lot of people recipes, leave the batter to stand for 30 minutes. Don't do that. Don't do that because we've got baking powder in there. And as soon as you put baking powder in and it gets wet, it starts to react and create the little bubbles you can see coming there. And they will disappear if you leave that to rest for half an hour. You won't get the nice rise when you start to cook the product. Now this is the vegetable oil, goes in at the very last minute, and just stir that in gently. There we are, you can see that. And we're going to use that batter right away. So we've got the pan on a medium heat. Let me just make sure it's the right heat. On a medium heat. And all I've done is taken a piece of kitchen roll and I've rubbed it on the butter. Can you see that? I haven't put any butter in the pan. And I'm just going to rub that on the bottom of the pan like that. You can see that's hardly noticeable. It's just a tiny drop. And then we're going to use a tablespoon. Now, when I say a tablespoon, I mean a proper tablespoon. I don't mean what lots of these people who do videos these days, you see they say a tablespoon and they finish up using a dessert spoon, which is not correct. This is an old-fashioned tablespoon which is used for serving vegetables out of the tureens on the table. And so what we're going to do, I'll just take the whisk out of there. We're going to put tablespoonfuls of the batter in the pan like that. If you want bigger ones, you can put more in. I'm making this so I can get several in the pan just to show you how it operates. It'll spread a little. I think I might need a little bit more in that one. There we go. Now once it's in the pan, we need to leave it and we'll see bubbles start appearing on the surface. And once they start appearing and the surface doesn't look wet any longer, that's the time to turn it over. Don't touch them in the meantime. All right? You need to leave it until the bubbles start appearing. They are starting to appear. I can see them coming up now. So we're just going to leave that for a few seconds longer and just make sure my heat's okay. It's on medium heat. We don't want it too high or we'll burn the bottoms before the batter is cooked through. And I'm not going to cut the video because it's such a short time. I'm going to let you watch and see what actually happens. You will see the bubbles now starting to appear. And they'll go pop. Now these pancakes, as we call them, Scotch pancakes, pancakes in England are not like this. Pancakes in England are really very thin, about the size of that pan, and they really are crepes. They're very, very thin batter. And these are Scotch pancakes. In England, we call them drop scones. When I was brought up on these, because travelling around the countryside in caravans, as my family did, as you know, we always cooked on an open fire and we had a girdle plate. Now a girdle plate's a bit different to a griddle plate. A griddle plate's got sides on. A girdle plate's completely flat. It had a hoop on top like that and it was hanging over the fire. And Mother cooked these several times a week. You can see the bubbles forming now. Can you see them forming now? And once it looks dry, now that one looks pretty dry on top, I'm going to flip it over. And that one. I don't know why this one, oh it's just coming up now to heat. And that's coming up now. You don't want them too brown underneath, you don't want to dry them out. Now the beauty of these is once you lift them out of the pan, you can freeze them. And when you want to use them, lift them out, and what I do is I pop one in the toaster just for a few seconds, that's all. And it'll thaw it out and it's ready to eat. Now by putting that little drop of oil in as we did just before the batter was used, this means if you don't eat them all today, tomorrow they'll still be nice and fresh and moist as they are at the moment. Because you can eat these hot or cold, it makes no difference. I'm just going to turn that one over now. And there we go. And the underside, the next side, when we turn it over, takes a very short time because it's almost cooked through with the heat coming up through the bubbles. So these will be almost ready to go now. I'll just grab my plate and off we go. can see the underside. That just needs a little touch longer because it was turned over last, if you remember. And what we do with them then is, we don't do anything else but just put that over. All we do then is put a cloth over them, like that, and carry on with the next batch. Take a bit of paper with the butter on. There's still a little bit on there with the heat, and off we go. Just give that a stir, and we're going to use spoonfuls as we did before. I'll finish cooking this batch and then I'll come back and show you what we do next. Now here we are, the last few just coming out, the last three. Just going to turn those. Now obviously the pan's got a little bit hotter, so they're a little bit browner than the first lot, but that's all right. Turn them over and just a few seconds on that side, and we've got the whole batch, my batch. This should normally make 8 scones, but I don't know why, I probably haven't put enough in some of them. I've got 9 out of mine, but a nice size. You can make them bigger if you want. I like them this size because I eat them sometimes with my breakfast, sometimes, I'll show you later, sometimes with my breakfast, sometimes just with a bit of fruit. And so they're coming out now. And there they are. There's my 9 beautiful pancakes. I'm sure you can see them all nice and fluffy. Now, you can eat these any way you want, hot or cold, it makes no difference. The most popular way of eating them is this way. People usually eat them with butter and jam, just like that. And they really are nice. You spread some butter on top. And whether they're hot or cold, it makes no difference, and a little jam, and it makes a very nice snack with a cup of tea. So that's the first way. The second way I'm going to show you is the way I enjoy them sometimes. I enjoy them with some fruit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to a couple of my pancakes like that. I'm going to put a little creme fraiche in here. Not much, just a little. And some nice fresh raspberries. And that makes a very, very nice finish to a meal. Or if you're having a children's party, they like those, and you can butter them if you want. But with the sweetness of the fruit, I don't think you need anything else because there is sugar in the pancakes as well. Of course, remember that. And also another idea with fruit is this: a couple of pancakes, some more creme fraiche. And this is one of my favourites, except I'm not supposed to eat this fruit because of my diabetes. But these are blueberries. And they really are excellent with pancakes. Now, if you wish, what you can do, you can mix some blueberries, and I have done it before, with the batter before you actually cook them. And that makes a very, very nice pancake. So that's another way of eating them. And another most popular way of eating them is like this. This is a bit Americanese, but this is a popular way of eating them. And what they do is they drizzle some syrup on them. Either maple syrup, golden syrup, or if you wish, if you're in Spain, it can be Cagna di la Miel. So there we are. Those are the 3 ways I eat them sweet. Now I'll show you what I do on a Sunday morning very often for my breakfast. Well, here it is. This is my perfect Sunday morning breakfast. All it needs now is a perfect poached egg, which I'm going to place on here. A little syrup on the pancakes. And this is my perfect breakfast. I'll show you the poached egg. It's a nice firm white and the yolk is absolutely just as I like it. So that's my perfect Sunday morning breakfast all ready to go. I have to admit I don't have it every Sunday, okay? So here we are with all the different methods of eating it. I've shown you these beautiful pancakes. You can have them with jam and butter, you can have them with fruit and cream or crème fraîche, you can have them just with syrup on, or you can have them on a nice cooked breakfast like that. And it's all I've got time for today. So I'm going to say, if you haven't subscribed, go underneath the video, give it a click, and if you see the little bell icon at the side, click that as well, and YouTube will tell you every time I put up a new video. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, leave those in the comments below. I do read every single one of them and I reply to as many as I possibly can. So this is Mr. Paul saying bye for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.